my favourite part of the show, this but you can't hear it, Miranda. There's a wonderful piece of music. It's a beautiful piece of music. It's rather... it always reminds me, and you'll understand, this is when Joyce Grenfell sings "I'm Going to See You Today." It kind of starts like this. And I always say, if there was a radio station that just played this, it would be gangbusters.
It would clean up.
It just makes you... It's a beautiful thing. Good welcome. Miranda Hart joins us, everybody. And you won't need me to explain anything there. It was a time, of course, but had to have said, now, what do you do? When was the last time anyone asked you, and what do you do?
I don't know. I never expect people to know who I am.
Oh, come on.
No, I don't.
You might not expect it, but you must have had to get used to it over the last 2 or 3 years.
Everybody
But
does.
I always go, hello, Miranda, nice to meet you. I never think
Yeah.
everyone's going to know who I am.
It's a James Taylor lyric. He says, "Fortune and fame is a curious game. Perfect strangers, they call you by name."
Yes, it is weird that. Hello, Miranda. Yeah, I suppose that is odd.
And I saw in your interview with Emma Freud, that fraud. I saw it with Emma Freud that you feel your star is on the wane now. I thought it was a very interesting choice of words.
On the way. Well, it's that moment of when you first sort of, I hate that word, make a break in a way, but that moment of when you first kind of do something big that gets recognised. That's only, a year or two. And that moment is getting like the first point of interest of who is she and what she's done. That goes. Yeah. Hopefully I'll keep working.
But is that an internal thing? Do you feel that? Or do you actually feel the industry now is looking around for another Miranda?
Yeah, well, I think that's always the thing. Like, David Walliams, his first big wow was at Little Britain, and he's still, a massive star and will always work, and, and James Corden or whatever. But your first moment of when you first become well known, that's what I meant.
And how much of a burden's the wrong word, but is it careful what you wish for? Do you think, OK, and now I've got to work doubly fast to say, well, look, I do other stuff too? Or are you quite happy with that legacy looming?
Yeah, I'm not somebody who's sort of driven by fame or the trimmings of the job, if you see what I mean. So I'm not worried about if the star really is waning, then I don't mind. I've done a good show.
That's fine for you to say, but once you're at that position, there's a kind of network around you of people who not necessarily work for you, but the expectation is right. What next? Are you in a position where you can say, well, nothing actually? I know you're taking a little hiatus coming up, aren't you?
Yeah. No, I like to sort of. I've always gone travelling in between and taken some time away so that you get perspective on it and also keep the joy of it, because writing comedy is it's hard.
Yeah,
it's stressful, and you need to have a break for your mind to clear, to think of new jokes and stuff. So I've always stepped away to come back, so I'm going to do that, but maybe for a bit longer this time.
And did it feel sudden? It felt sudden from the outside. All of a sudden, there it was on television, fully formed. Let's have the next one, and the series couldn't have gone any better. But did it feel sudden to you?
It didn't actually. I got very lucky that in retrospect, very lucky that it took so long to get into the business. And my first Edinburgh Festival was 94, and my sitcom wasn't on air till 2009.
Yeah.
And before my sitcom, I'd done lots of little parts in sitcoms as an actor. So it was gradual. But I think it suddenly hit me only probably a year ago when Call the Midwife and my show were both on BBC One. So my show transferred to BBC One. And suddenly that felt like massive. And I went to Australia on holiday, and people knew me out there, and I was like, oh, maybe this telly thing has actually happened. And I came out of the sort of bubble of it and thought, gosh, this is a bit surreal.
And the first night Miranda was broadcast, what did you do? Did you sit indoors and watch it in an orgy of self-congratulation, or did you...
No, I think I remember taking the dog for a walk at that, because it was on in November, and it's the sort of... you have to take the dog for the last night wee-wees.
Yes,
Can I say wee-wees?
Oh, man alive, you know what? You'd be surprised how fast the audience go below the waist. So, yeah.
And I remember walking around the block and then seeing somebody watching it.
Really?
Through the curtain.
Hang on, Miranda. You
I'm not stalking my neighbours.
Peripheral vision, or did you were going up looking through people's windows?
I was saying, is anyone? No, genuinely.
That's news at 10. Turn over.
Turn over. Oi! And thought, God, that's weird. I'm here and somebody's watching me. But at that point, I never thought it would take off. I remember this thinking, what am I going to say to my friends in comedy? Because they're all going to hate it. And I'm
come on! No, you didn't. You weren't. You must have known it was. It was solid. It was. No, genuinely. Was funny. It was funny from the first minute.
Well, it was. I knew when we started doing the studio records, and obviously you've got an audience to react to, and I thought, oh gosh, they're really laughing. They're really responding to these audiences. Yeah. This is great. But it then transmitting on air, going to be on television, that's a whole other thing. And I genuinely, because it was so different to what had been out there before, it was suddenly this mainstream, silly, heightened, you know, there was slapstick in it. I thought maybe audiences weren't up for that, because we were in a state of satire and dark stuff, and very real things. So it was a real kind of jar. So I thought, I definitely thought my friends in comedy are going to be like, oh yeah, no, that's so anyway, how's everything else?
This is the final hurrah, is it, at Christmas?
Yeah, we just filmed the last two, which is I'm still feeling a bit emotional about it.
I should imagine so.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, in 2 years you'll make another one. You will make another one in a couple of years, because why
of the
wouldn't
sitcom?
You? Yeah. Why
No,
wouldn't you?
do you know, that's what I thought. I kept saying to myself, I won't be sad, because maybe I will, but then we realised on the floor I've written the finale.
Yeah,
and I watched it. So did
John Sullivan, I think, 6 times for only 4 synopsis, didn't he?
Yeah, no, I kind of know it's...
Yeah.
So that would be
it's
New
weird,
Year's Day,
and I wouldn't
the
just
last
say
one.
that.
No.
Yeah, Christmas Day and New Year's Day. It was weird, and watching it in the edit, I thought, oh no, that is... I'm pretty 99.9% sure that is it.
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, I couldn't bear to say goodbye to my cast and those characters, so there may be another genre for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Has that Miranda stymied other comedy directions you can go in? Do you think people are always going to want that? Not the typecast thing, but the idea that, or have you exercised your funny bones now and want to do more drama?
I'd love to do more drama.
What for? Don't. Well, honestly, the pool of comedy is so little. It's so little, and now you've jumped out. Don't.
Yeah,
do that.
no, I'm not. No, I was steady. I'm not jumping out of comedy. Never. No, comedy's my first love. But I think you need sometimes. I'd love to try drama to see whether I can do it and whether I love it and whether you can marry both. Because sometimes you need to do something different, I think, to find the joy of comedy again.
Yeah, but that was your plan, wasn't it? You started dramatically.
Well, no, comedy was always the first love and first dream. So this is me.
And what about some of the rejects you had before Miranda? Was it variations of that Miranda? You had a couple of goes and people thought, not quite for us. Did you have much of that?
Yeah, no, not too much. It was a very slow and steady. I had a great producer who sort of let me... I took my time. I've always taken my time and not gone with the pressures of... You must churn out this now, and now, you know, whilst... Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, don't leave a gap between second and third series. Quick, get on with it. I was like, no, I want to take my time with it and write what I think the best. So I've always... It took me 2 years to develop the sitcom, and I think telly's made so fast now, and people go, I wonder why that didn't work. It's like, well, you came up with the idea in 4 weeks, and you wrote it in 6. That's probably why.
Yeah.
You know, so I slowly developed it, and therefore... The rejection was less, I think, because I'd really worked on it and knew my vision for it.
You touched on a subject which I know we can now just coast to the end of the interview on. You mentioned walking your dog. You're like me. It's just, that's it. Dogs, you're all about the dogs. That's
all about the dogs.
Yeah,
I mean, you have kids too, but I'm sure the dogs take priority, right?
Yeah.
That's what most people
over 2 of them, 1 of them I'm quite fond of.
Okay.
So but she's going to be a success. The other 2, great disappointment to me. But I say that too often to the kids.
Yeah,
to be
you'll be in trouble when you get home.
I never name them. But you've had dogs all your life?
No, I haven't. No. This is my first dog.
No!
Yeah.
Oh.
Because my mum's a gardener, so she never
wasted your life around.
I know. She never wanted a dog. She was worried the dog would dig up the garden. So we had cats.
Oh.
And every year I would write, even when I was 35, dear Mum and Dad, please have a dog for Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah, and so suddenly I found myself in Lee Mack's show Not Going Out. The costume lady on that had puppies. Well, she didn't, obviously, her dog did. And it sounded like the costume lady had
Just
puppies.
a little.
Wow. And they were these tiny little balls of fluff, and it could fit in my trainer. And I was like, well, yes, please, I'll have that.
Wow.
And she said, the one you're playing with now, an old lady's just broken her hip. She wanted her and can't. And I went... I will have that, please.
Oh.
With no thought through of the practicalities of it whatsoever.
And it's all right with you, errant parent. Where is it now? Right now?
It's at home on my sofa, quite happy. I'll be back in...
you should have left the radio. We could have had a lot of fun talking to the dog down the radio. Yeah. You wouldn't believe how that flies, that particular thing.
I do sometimes do the radio, and I should have done that.
I've got... I'll take up your time, but I've got a sound effect of puppies that every time I play it, people say, please don't play that. The dogs have just gone nuts. Well, if anything makes you want to put it on repeat, that does.
Yeah, that's funny.
Who was the first famous person you met? Either as a kid, or do you remember... Were you an autograph hunter at all?
Yeah, I was. I did.
Did you?
It's really embarrassing now.
No, it isn't. Nothing is.
No, but what it is... No, I agree. I agree nothing's
Jimmy
embarrassing. That's the joy of getting older. Nothing's embarrassing, isn't it? But it's embarrassing now when you meet people and then you go, oh, yes, no, I saw that show. And they go, did you? Yeah. And I was at the stage door asking for your autograph.
No.
Yeah, I was a stage door.
So who was it? Who would have been the first?
Well, Fletch and Saunders, I was pretty... obsessed with. I would follow them around because they were like, Joyce Grenfell was a huge inspiration to me, but obviously she died before I was born. So they were the women who were there and out and about. So I always staged all them.
Now, but now you're
Bill Nighy I met recently, and I had to admit to him that I'd written him a letter when he first did Skylight. He was like, "Did I write back?" And I said, "Yes, you did." And he went, "Phew."
And what was the contents of this letter?
Just probably just embarrassing kind of, you're a huge inspiration. I really want to get into acting. Any tips, that sort of thing. I wrote loads of letters to people backstage.
And Dad, do you feel a peer like French and Saunders? Can you work comfortably with them, or are you still in?
Yeah, no, they're amazing. They're friends now, which is great.
Why is the Joyce Grenfell thing? I mean, I'm saying that just as because I obviously know, and I'm a huge fan. One of my old email addresses was Joyce Grenfell, but
was it?
Yeah, I was so pleased to get
That's
it.
Great.
Yeah, I do on my old email addresses. But explain to people why Joyce Grenfell for you.
I don't know. Well, it was when I was very young, seeing her in a sort of simple, stage on television. Just this woman on her own in a ball gown. And it was... So that, I think, even at a very young age, was like, wow, she's doing that on her own. That's extraordinary.
It is.
And because comedy from an early age, I don't know why, I just wanted to experience getting a laugh and thought it was the most kind of giving thing you can do. I hate it when comedians say it's not a proper job. I think it is.
No, completely a proper job.
And she just simply made me laugh, and her use of language, I think. Her love of words.
And also just, she's probably... you can't call her a character actress, she was much more than that. But that's certainly like Esma Cannon and Pat Coombs, Peggy Mount, and people like that. That kind of whole strain of recognisable, funny women does seem to have dissipated a lot more. You don't get those regular cast of people think, oh, here she comes. I mean, they're always typecast. Poor old Esma Cannon gave it up. She said, I can't play one more dotty old lady.
Yeah, and I think Joyce didn't like doing the St Trinian's movies.
No, I don't think so. And I've got some Joyce here actually played. There's a track one I brought in. I don't know if you know this. This is her singing That's the End of the News. And you might want to hear this.
Yeah.
But instantly, the characters there, it's not always her voice for that, but it's a beautiful song about singing while everything is falling down around you. Anyone who doesn't understand the legacy of Joyce Grenfell or only knows the George sketches, absolutely,
George, yeah. It was charm, I think that's the thing. There's a lot of lack of warmth, I think, now.
Yeah, and there is
that, She had such charm and warmth. You just loved her, like Eric Morecambe. You just were in love with these people.
Well, as I say it once a week and every week, that the G.K. Chesterton, and that frivolous is hard and sombre is easy.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
There's something to be said about that. You had a trial for QPR. You're wearing the colours almost. Now, this is that may come as a surprise to a lot of people. You had a trial for QPR.
Yeah, this is the way you're saying it has amped it up. Or QPR Rangers, as I keep saying, which really lets me down.
How did that go?
Well, very badly. I loved my sport at school. It was very sporty, and I wanted to keep it going. So then when I went to university, you start sort of eating and drinking and getting fat and unfit. And I thought, no, come on. And then the guys were saying, try football. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to try football. And they were like, no, you're quite good. And so then there were these sort of open, I'm going to say auditions, tryouts, auditions for QPR Rangers. And so me and a friend went along, and I think they saw me coming and thought, oh, great, height. Yeah. She could be good up front, she could be at the back, you know. And I was rubbish.
Really?
And I thought I was quite good, and then I suddenly got amongst these women who played a lot and played at school, and they were really
What position did you play?
Well, because I used to play lacrosse, and I was an attack up front at lacrosse, and they put me in defence, and I'm naturally
How old were you when this
a
happened?
goal
Forward.
scorer. A forward, that's it. In lacrosse, it's attack.
And how old were you when you had this brush with the Premier League?
I think it was 6th division, ladies.
Yeah.
They had a first. I was auditioning for 6th. 23?
And now you went on the politics at university, didn't you?
Yeah, sort of.
No, make a face. That's
Well, no, it's
admirable.
just that I never really attended any lectures.
One of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was like, what am I doing? This is just societal pressure. I actually just want to do the acting.
But you got a. I mean, I in the notes it said you got a 2-1. I don't
2-1.
know what that means.
No, nor do I.
That's good.
But I know that it's better than a 2-2, and I
It
don't know what that
is,
is.
yeah.
Do
But
you-
not as good as a first class is the best
Did-
one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do people ever tug your coat and say, "Come on, question time," and pontificate? Because that kind of thing makes me shrink.
Yeah, no, I can't do. No, I'm very poorly read. I haven't read newspapers for years.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I just
It's not stopped most of the people in this game who go on question time.
That's
Believe
true.
me, it doesn't. But
That's true.
You've got no particular axe to grind in that direction. Then
No, not at all.
what are you going to do next? What is your big next thing?
Well, I think I need to sort of step back a bit and think. But I really, to go back to what you said about jumping out of the comedy pool, you're right. Comedy is important and entertainment is important, so I am thinking about that. But I don't know. I'd love to do theatre. That's what I love about studio sitcoms is you're doing theatre on television, so you've got the audience. I love an audience. That's the thing.
Yes, yeah. I mean, because you know, as I often say, it's unlikely we'd have got here without the microphones and the aerial on the roof because you're promoting the DVD of what I like to call
Yeah, my what I call live show.
and that must
Yes.
have absolutely made you want to run to an island somewhere and say, forget about it.
Yeah.
To actually go out on the first stand-up tour at arenas.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. How was that? The very first night you thought, well, here we go. I think it's any good.
Yeah, I did wonder what on earth I was doing at the beginning, and I was so nervous. And you warm up at Bournemouth and Plymouth, which are like sort of 2,000 and 3,000. That's your warm up. You think this is crazy that stand-ups are now doing this, but equally it's really thrilling. And you know, there's a whole argument for stand-up should not be in the O2 and those sort of places. But then there are television-watching audiences that are coming that are sort of happy to watch the screen. So you're sort of doing stage and a telly show at the same time.
And was there a tremendous resentment from gnarled old male stand-ups of, that's not good. That's
No,
not what you should.
if there was, I was not. Luckily, shut my ears to that. I didn't
Good for
hear.
you. I mean, I'm sure. You know, people. The main people who say you shouldn't play in arenas are people who are not going to come close to that as long as they live. But,
Yeah.
How many dates did you actually do?
I think it was about 45 in arenas, and sort of so there was about 60 or 70 dates with all the warm-ups and everything.
Yeah.
And I warmed up in Australia as well, which was amazing. They're great audiences.
And that's all done there, right?
All done, yeah. It was an amazing experience, and I'm so glad I did it. But I do prefer to play with an ensemble and prefer to act more than stand up. I think probably people didn't resent me because I didn't come from the stand up circuit.
Yeah.
I did a bit of it in my own shows in Edinburgh and stuff. But
Yeah. But the slapstick you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Actually, that's accented too much because there was more in the shows than you falling over.
Oh, do you know? Thank you. I loved you anyway, and I can't love you more for that. I'm constantly being referred to as the slapstick, or when people get compilations together, it's all of the show. It's always the falling over, and I always say, for me, it feels like I've done about 2 minutes of slapstick in 20 episodes, and it's not about that for me. It's all about the relationships and this woman socially inept and coping with universal things from gym membership to struggling with nudity or whatever it is. So for me, it's and the will they won't they love story. So for me, that's what the sitcom is.
And when you did use it more sparingly, the more the character evolved.
Yes.
Did you have to let that go, and did you think that's going to disappoint people? But I want to tell the story
well,
here.
it was really interesting doing these last 2 specials because there was a sense I could tell from the audience of, this is a slightly different Miranda. You know, she's not getting into quite as much trouble socially, or she hasn't fallen over, or so there was a definite.
Hey, you want to sell some seats here? She falls over at least once, hopefully.
And so there was, and then when there were a couple of moments where at a party she did her usual kind of getting in a muddle socially, and the audience came alive, and I thought that's interesting. They still do want her to be that person because we all feel that we've all been an idiot.
Are you working on another character?
No, do you know, I haven't thought about that. I haven't let go of her. I love her so much.
Yeah. But do you think the public will let, as I said earlier, to let go of that?
There is a sense that the public are telling me what they want me to do.
And are you willing to be malleable like that?
Yeah, I think so. But there was a line which I felt guilty about when, because Emma Freud's a friend of mine. So when I was chatting to her in that interview, we were just chatting. I sort of forgot it was an interview, and I did say I feel like I've outgrown the character, and I feel sort of slightly guilty about that. But there is a point where you start doing what feels like the same jokes to you.
Yeah.
And you think, oh no, this is a bit embarrassing now.
Is that because
when you were... But actually the audiences still like it?
Were you always more analytical of comedy when you were watching it than any drama? When you used to... I mean, what would have been your first comedy possession? Did you have tapes or LPs, or did you have a...
VHSs.
And did you tape them yourself? Which series would you have been taping?
Pretty much any comedy that was in the Radio Times would be on. I've just found all my old scribbles of every Room at 101, even every, every chat show, every... I remember Peter Cook on Clive Anderson. I'd watched repeat that over and over again.
You're very good that you used to label your VHSs, because very few people, very few men get round to actually doing that rather essential duty.
I know.
You've still got them all, have you?
I think my mum and dad might have thrown a few away, but but Morecambe and Mize I would watch on repeat. They were my benchmark.
And would you watch them for, well, obviously for pure pleasure, but would you also look and think, yes, I think I know how that works?
I think there was this weird innate sense of, it sounds cocky, kind of, I'm not that intimidated by it. Like, I think they're geniuses, and I don't ever imagine that I will ever be on television, but I feel like there's something in me that could do something.
Yeah.
There was that, but I think you have to have that sort of kind of confidence as well. I think everyone would admit to it, to be able to do what you do or what I do.
You also see it kind of as a blessing that it didn't happen when you were 19.
Oh, completely. I don't understand success in 20s. How do people cope? And B, what do you have to say?
Yeah.
That sounds harsh. Well, that's going to...
No, it's
that'll be
true.
in the Daily Mail later, won't it?
But, yes, they hang on every word of this show. But you actually, at that time, you weren't hungry for it, or you actually... It's a philosophy you've arrived at, or did you think when you were younger, I'm not ready yet? Would you have bitten the hand off had at 20 someone said, come on, make a television programme?
No, I wouldn't. I would have been too shy.
What were you doing then? You were in university, but...
I was doing politics, not wanting to do politics, sort of wondering I had this real heart's desire and real craving to get into theatre. I knew I wanted to be with those people, with those creative minds.
What's the most
open,
extraordinary, mind-blowing production you ever saw in the theatre? What is the one you thought, please let me be part of that?
I remember watching, but it was relatively recently, but it's just what's first come to mind, rather than leaving a long, thoughtful gap on live radio.
Oh, man, dead air. It's one of the few shows that blesses
you love it.
Was identifies us.
Fallen Angels with Felicity Kendall and Francis de la Tour.
Oh, man,
I was watching a Noel Coward show with those two kind of comedy women, and thinking, oh, I'd love to play like that. I just get excited now they're going to the theatre and the lights go down. I'm just like a child again.
I reckon you might be sport for choice, in the new year. But how long are you taking off before you come roaring back to something?
I don't know. I'm sort of leaving it open. I'm like, I'm going with the flow, Danny Baker.
Yeah, but doesn't your age ring up? So the flow's all very well, but let's get the diary out, shall we?
No, he's great with that. He's great at managing me as the person, actually.
How many agents you had?
How many agents have I had?
Yeah. How many of you jettisoned as your fame grew into a monster? Couldn't keep pace with the production. But
I have 3, maybe.
Yeah,
not many. I mean, I think 1 changes agents.
Yeah, and do you nearly at a time? Sorry.
Oh no.
Do you lust after America? Because there's a kind of parallel only in the coming later with the Ricky Gervais thing where it took off there, and Ricky didn't do a stroke before like 40. But would you like to have a little? I
don't have grand ambitions or desire to break America or anything like that. But just the notion of kind of being on a lot with some of those people in the sun is just very exciting and romantic. And
is there Miranda the movie? Have you been approached for that? I should imagine.
Yeah, I did consider that, and the last 2 episodes that we've just filmed could have been a film story, but I wanted to honour it as a sitcom, I think, and honour the TV audiences.
Well, that speaks volumes for you, Miranda Hart. That does. And you're on. What days is it on?
Christmas Day and New Year's Day.
I know, isn't that exciting?
Isn't that terrific?
I still can't believe I'm on Christmas Day.
I know. Well, next year work on Christmas Eve. Get that agent to get the 3 days, and then you can call yourself a star. Miranda Hart, thank you very much. The DVD of the stand-up show is out and flying off the shelves. Pleasure to see you. Thank you very much indeed, Miranda Hart.
on digital, online, smartphone and tablet. This is BBC 5 Live.
5 Live News, I'm Kate Williams. US officials say the British-born American journalist Luke Summers has been killed in a failed rescue attempt in Yemen. 10 members of Al-Qaeda are also believed to have been killed in the US Special Forces mission. Our security correspondent is Frank Gardner. Frank, what do we know? And I'm afraid we seem to be having trouble getting Frank. We'll get back to that story when we can. The UK has signed a deal to establish a permanent naval base in Bahrain. It'll be Britain's first permanent military facility in the Middle East.